Welcome to the deep dive. You sent us some really fascinating material today. It's a YouTube transcript from VaidicPhysics featuring Acharya Agnivrat.
Yes, and we're going to dive into his exploration of something pretty fundamental, this deep connection between truth, satya, and, well, the universe itself and our society.
Exactly. And for you listening, we know you want to get to the heart of things, get the knowledge quickly but thoroughly without feeling overloaded.
So our mission here is really to unpack this Vedic perspective on truth from the source you sent. We want to understand its impact, its implications for us individually and collectively.
And the source itself is incredibly rich. It
Yeah.
draws on the Vedas, Upanishads, the Mahabharata, Patanjali's Yoga Sutras. It's quite a list.
It really shows the depth of thought here, doesn't it?
Yeah.
And the central question posed is huge. Is the universe actually based on truth?
It's a big one. Okay, so let's jump right in. The discussion starts with this striking idea about dead versus living Dharma.
Right. Acharya Agnivrat opens with this thought. Dharma that is killed kills us, but Dharma that is protected protects us.
That immediately makes you think, well, hang on. If you look at a country like India, deeply rooted in Dharma, why the struggles with poverty, unemployment?
While other places, maybe less overtly religious, seem, well, more prosperous. It's a common question.
Yeah, and the suggestion in the transcript is that maybe it's not just about having Dharma, but about our understanding of it.
Exactly. The understanding might be key, which naturally leads to, okay, so what is Dharma according to these scriptures? How is it defined?
It seems there are multiple layers to that definition.
Well, yeah, what's interesting is different texts give different numbers. Manusmriti mentions 10 characteristics.
10, okay.
Then Krishna in the Mahabharata lists 7. Bhishma, also in the Mahabharata, gives 3.
7, then 3. It's getting simpler.
And then Indra, king of the gods, is linked with just 1 characteristic.
Just one. So are these contradicting each other, or is it like peeling an onion?
More like peeling an onion, I think. They're not seen as contradictory, but progressively encompassing. The 10 are broad, the 7 more focused, the 3 even more so.
And the 1 is the absolute core.
The 1 is the essence. Indra's single characteristic is seen as the distillation of all the others. It's about getting to the fundamental principle.
Okay, that makes sense. A distillation. So within these characteristics, Patanjali's Yoga Darshana highlights 2 as sort of primary.
Yes, 2 pillars, really. Ahimsa, nonviolence, and satya, truth.
Nonviolence and truth.
And it's worth noting, the Mahabharata itself really hammers home that ahimsa, nonviolence, is the highest dharma, paramo dharma.
So both are vital, but for today's deep dive, the lens really zooms in on satya, truth.
The supreme importance of truth.
What about the source material really emphasizes this?
Well, there are some incredibly powerful statements. The Valmiki Ramayana apparently says, Satya is Ishwara in this world. Truth is God.
Wow, okay, that's direct. Truth is God.
It is. And then Bhishma Pitamaha in the Mahabharata Shanti Parva really elaborates. He calls truth Dharma itself, the eternal, the ultimate goal.
Something you achieve through asceticism and yoga.
Right. And the foundation of everything. He apparently lists, get this, 313 aspects of truth.
313? Seriously?
Yeah, I mean, we're not going through all 313 today, but the sheer number suggests truth isn't just simple, it's multifaceted. But the core concept is key.
So how does this massive emphasis on truth link back to that initial idea of dead Dharma?
It connects directly. If Dharma dies when neglected, the source argues that if we disregard truth, if we kill truth,
then truth, in a way, disregards or harms us back.
Exactly. It's presented as a kind of cosmic law of reciprocity. Kill truth, and truth, or the consequences of untruth, will impact you negatively.
So a nation's progress, its well-being, is tied directly to its level of truthfulness.
That's the direct correlation drawn in the transcript. Adherence to truth leads to progress. Abandoning truth leads to decline, even destruction.
And it contrasts Dharma and Adharma along these lines.
Yes. Dharma is aligned with truth, nonviolence, self-control. Adharma with untruth, violence, indulgence. Pretty clear lines drawn there.
This then leads into a quite critical look at contemporary society, especially focusing on India in the source material.
It does. The speaker, Acharya Agnivrat, acknowledges that, outward things in India, maybe less meat-eating or less overt sexuality compared to some other cultures, might seem dharmic on the surface.
Right.
But he then contrasts this with a perceived prevalence of lying, of dishonesty, when compared to places like Europe, America, or Japan.
where the source suggests there's maybe a stronger adherence to laws, to an honest work ethic?
That's the suggestion made, yes, and some anecdotes are shared to illustrate this.
Like the one about the shopkeepers in Belgium.
Right, where apparently shocks operate on an honor system for payment, relying completely on customer honesty.
That's remarkable.
And it's contrasted with historical accounts, like from the Chinese traveler Xuanzang, who apparently wrote about ancient India having, virtually no lying, theft, or injustice, with open, trusting marketplaces.
A very different picture from what the speaker feels is happening now.
Yes. The feeling expressed in the source is that lying has become rampant and is actually holding back progress significantly.
Which brings us back to the definition. If truth is so important, how does Vedic philosophy actually define it? It's clearly more than just, not telling fibs.
Definitely more. Maharishi Patanjali and the commentary by Vyasa define satya, truth, as this complete congruence.
Congruence between what?
Between your inner self, your atma, your thoughts, manas, your words, vani, and your actions, karma. They all have to align.
Inner self, thoughts, words, actions. Okay.
But there's a crucial addition. This alignment must be for the benefit of all beings. Sarva Bhutahita.
So it's not just internal consistency, it has an ethical purpose, for the good of all.
Precisely. That outward-facing benefit is key, which means sometimes speaking the truth might seem harsh.
Like the example given of a witness in court.
Exactly. Their truthful testimony might lead to someone being punished, which seems like harm. But the intention isn't malice. It's upholding justice, which benefits society and potentially even helps the individual face consequences and reform.
So understanding that nuance, that intention, is crucial. Otherwise, you could misapply the idea of truthfulness.
Very easily. And it all comes back to this interconnectedness. Atma, the individual soul, connecting with Paramatma, the supreme soul, through buddhi, intellect, manas, mind, vani, speech, karma, action, all ideally aligned with truth.
Okay, now for listeners maybe thinking, is there a more scientific angle to this? How can lying actually have these big consequences? The transcript touches on that too, right?
It does, though it notes that it requires going beyond, let's say, basic school science into deeper physics and philosophy.
This is where the concept of manas tattva comes in.
Yes, manas tattva. It's described as a kind of universal mind essence or mental field pervading everything.
Like a cosmic consciousness.
Sort of, yes. A subtle mental fabric underlying reality. The idea is mind isn't just in our heads, it's fundamental to the cosmos.
So our individual minds are tapped into this universal field.
That's the Vedic perspective presented, and this is how our thoughts and words can have wider effects.
How does lying specifically affect this manas tattva, according to the source?
Well, think about the state of mind. Speaking truth feels, usually, natural, clear, no conflict.
Right.
Lying, however, requires effort. You have to invent in, remember the lies, manage inconsistencies. It creates internal distortion.
Okay, I get that for the individual, but the universal impact.
The argument is that this internal mental distortion doesn't just harm you, it generates negative vibrations or disturbances that ripple out and affect this universal manas tattva.
Negative vibrations affecting a cosmic mind field. That's a big concept. How does this connect to the physical universe, to atoms and space?
The transcript touches on the scientific view: atoms, particles, fields, space. Then it adds the Vedic idea that space itself arises from subtle vibrations or rays, rashmis, within this manas tattva.
So the mental field is even more fundamental than physical space.
In this view, yes.
Yeah.
Which means our truthful or untruthful thoughts and words, by impacting the manas tattva, are, in a sense, influencing the very foundation of reality, space, atoms, everything.
That really elevates the importance of truthfulness. It's not just personal ethics, it's potentially shaping reality.
It becomes a cosmic responsibility in this framework. And the source uses an analogy to illustrate this ripple effect.
There's one about pain waves.
Yeah, citing Professor Madan Mohan Bajaj from Delhi University. His idea, as presented, is that violence creates negative energy, pain waves that don't just affect the victim, but might travel, well, even across galaxies.
Wow, okay.
And Acharya Agnivrat extends this. He suggests that waves of untruth, deceit, hatred, greed, they also radiate from our minds and negatively impact that universal manas tattva.
It makes you pause and think, doesn't it? How many times a day does one bend the truth, even slightly?
The speaker actually prompts that self-reflection and asks, can a nation where lying is seen as common truly be called dharmic, whatever its other practices?
And this leads to some specific quite pointed examples from the source material regarding perceived untruth in society.
Yes, Acharya Agnivrat expresses strong concern about perceived dishonesty across many sectors in India: officials, workers, businesses, politics, even religious spheres.
There was a particularly detailed example concerning the pandemic.
Yes, raising questions about the potential misrepresentation of causes of death,
Yeah.
suggesting, for instance, that deaths from perhaps heart attacks, cancer, TB might have been attributed solely to the pandemic virus.
That's a serious claim, questioning the information flow and motives.
It is. The source points to perceived contradictions, like promoting precautions, but also suggesting recovery without specific treatments, and asks about the truthfulness of the narrative.
And the apparent drop in reporting other diseases during that time.
That's mentioned too, implying a potential skewing of information, a focus that might obscure other truths.
And this perceived lack of truth is linked to real-world problems.
Directly. Closed schools, unemployment, business struggles, the impact on students' development, potential long-term societal effects. They're all connected back to this perceived environment of untruth.
There's also that mention of the survey from Norway.
Right, about deaths from indoor air pollution, suggesting that maybe huge, ongoing problems get less attention than more immediate crises, possibly obscuring important truths about public health priorities.
It touches on some deeper anxieties, too, about powerful groups.
Yes, briefly mentioning concerns about powerful entities potentially acting with less than beneficial intentions, tying into the theme of hidden or manipulated truths.
This paints a rather bleak picture of the present. How is it contrasted with the past?
The source evokes the era of Sri Rama, traditionally seen as a golden age: natural abundance, health, long life, wisdom, purity.
A stark contrast to now, with pollution, degraded food.
Exactly. Polluted water, air, food needing supplements. It's a dramatic difference.
And this decline is linked back to untruth.
To the pollution of our manas, our collective mind space, through untruthful thoughts and actions. This inner pollution, the source suggests, mirrors and contributes to the external environmental pollution, including things like radiation.
So our internal state directly impacts the external world's balance.
That's the core Vedic idea presented, which leads to questioning if modern science fully gets it.
Like the point about weather prediction.
Yeah, suggesting meteorologists might miss subtle factors, maybe cosmic influences like solar radiation, because the models aren't accounting for these deeper connections.
And the Vedic view claims truth and untruth do affect these things, weather, cosmic events.
Profoundly, yes. The transcript mentions thousands of types of cosmic rays beyond current science, suggesting future discoveries might validate these links between our inner state, truth, and the outer world.
Even natural disasters are linked in this view.
Yes. Things like excessive rain, storms, volcanoes, tsunamis, fires, landslides are presented as potential symptoms of an imbalance caused by negative vibrations, with untruth being a major contributor.
It's a very interconnected, almost living, responsive universe being described. The feeling of pervasive untruth in modern life is also highlighted.
The speaker observes that during things like elections, the world can feel almost mad with accusations and falsehoods.
And the point is, it all affects that universal manas tattva. Everyone's thoughts and words contribute.
Regardless of who they are, yes. And this collective mental pollution is linked to the increase in uncontrollable natural disasters, despite our technology.
Like the examples of huge fires or feeling helpless during big events.
Exactly. It underscores the sense that maybe we're missing a crucial piece of the puzzle: the power of truth and the impact of untruth.
This all builds towards a call to action then, a plea to embrace truth.
It does. You, the listener, are really invited to reflect on these ideas, to question your own relationship with truth.
And that Vedic prayer is brought up again.
Yes, the prayer to move from untruth to truth. Asaro Gamaya, darkness to light, death to immortality. It's presented as a universal human need, not just sectarian.
Reminding us again of that core definition, truth as alignment.
Complete alignment. Inner self, thought, word, deed. And the distinction is made, again, unintentional slips might be rectifiable.
But deliberate lies, for selfish or harmful reasons.
Those are seen as having much graver consequences, possibly without remedy, which highlights the need to actively seek truth, study scriptures, understand science.
Like the analogy of unknowingly eating poison. You're still responsible for finding out what's harmful.
Precisely. Ignorance isn't a complete excuse when the means to know are available.
And there's a clear rejection of lying for any supposed good reason. Tradition, scripture.
A strong rejection. Lying is lying, And the consequences, the source claims, depend on the intention and the impact. And it reiterates that the whole universe is affected.
Like a tiny blockage causing major problems in the body.
Exactly that analogy. Our individual untruths contribute to a larger cosmic imbalance.
But the ending isn't just about warnings, it talks about the potential of truth.
Right. The positive vision. If society widely embraced truth, think of the trust that would rebuild. Maybe less need for all the checks, the IDs, the certificates.
Because people could be taken at their word more often.
Potentially. The conclusion is quite stark. All happiness comes from truth. All suffering from untruth.
And that challenging thought about humans, despite our intelligence.
Having become the most harmful beings because of our capacity for deliberate untruthfulness. Maybe even worse than animals who act honestly according to their nature.
Wow.
It ends with a prayer, really, for wisdom. The wisdom to choose truth, satya, as the ultimate goal for ourselves and for the universe.
So wrapping up this deep dive into the material you sent, the core takeaway seems to be this profound Vedic view of truth, satya. It's not just morals, it's the operating system of reality.
That's a good way to put it. The foundation of the cosmos, the root of well-being, both personal and universal.
Which leaves us, and you listening, with a pretty significant thought to ponder.
If this Vedic perspective is right, that even small untruths ripple outwards and affect everything, what responsibility does that place on each of us?
Responsibility to cultivate truthfulness consciously in our thoughts, our words, our actions, not just for ourselves.
But for the whole interconnected system, it's definitely something to reflect on. We hope this exploration encourages you to look further into Dharma and Satya and consider what they mean in your own life.